Good day, everyone, and compliments of the season. You are welcome to this week's Business and Investment Tips program, a production of RCCG Christ Church Radio with Dr. Ayodeji Ebo, an investment professional. This week, we discuss our views on the federal government's 2025 budget proposal. Last week, President Bola Tinubu presented the 2025 budget proposal to a joint session of the 10th National Assembly. The proposed budget, titled Budget of Restoration, Securing Peace, Rebuilding Prosperity, is set to take effect on January 1, 2025. This budget aims to ensure macroeconomic stability, reduce poverty, promote economic growth, and develop human capital while addressing issues on insecurity. The budget figures were based on assumptions which include oil price at $78.10 per barrel, oil production at 2.06 million barrels per day, an exchange rate of 1,500 naira to a dollar, a projected inflation rate of 15%, and a projected growth rate of 4.6%. These assumptions are largely optimistic given the current economic challenges. The proposed 2025 budget expenditure is 49.7 trillion naira, a 14.6 trillion naira or 41.5% increase over the 2024 approved budget. The 2025 proposed revenue is estimated at 36.4 trillion naira, 10.6 trillion naira or 41% higher than the 2024 approved revenue budget. Recurrent expenditure, debt and non-debt, was projected at about 61% or 30.4 trillion naira of the total budget. The revenue is projected based on expected income from the sale of crude oil, taxes, duties, and income from government-owned enterprises. Oil revenue is projected at 19.6 trillion naira or 54% of total revenue, while non-oil revenue has been estimated at 5.7 trillion naira. The balance of 11.1 trillion naira is expected to come from other revenue sources, including the operating surplus of ministries, departments, and agencies, and government-owned enterprises. The budget deficit, which is the difference between projected expenditure and revenue, is expected at 13.4 trillion naira for 2025. Our views on the proposed budget. 1. The budget assumptions are largely unrealistic given the current state of the domestic and global economy. Specifically, meeting the projected oil production of 2.06 million barrels per day would be a tall order given the current oil production of 1.7 million barrels per day, including condensates. Also, the projected average exchange rate and inflation rate are doubtful given recent trends and factors weighing on these variables. 2. The projected growth of 4.6% is laudable but overly optimistic given the current growth rate of 3.5% as of Q3 2024. That said, Nigeria needs to grow between 5 to 7% annually to experience an improved standard of living. 3. The revenue projection of 36.4 trillion naira is largely premised on an increase in oil revenue, which would account for 53% of total revenue compared to an average of 32% in the past 2 years. Also, this is 91% higher than the 19.1 trillion naira estimated annual revenue for 2024 based on August 2024 actual revenue. The rise in the projection is based on higher oil production. 4. The budget's fiscal deficit is projected to increase by 4.2 trillion naira from 9.2 trillion naira in 2024 to 13.4 trillion naira in 2025. This translates to 3.87% of GDP, which is higher than the 3% threshold stipulated in the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2027. The actual fiscal deficit is likely to be much worse given the ambitious revenue forecasts. 5. Debt servicing, including sinking fund, is 99% higher at 16.3 trillion naira compared to 8.2 trillion naira in the 2024 approved budget. Debt servicing is the cost of past borrowings. Debt servicing accounts for 33% of projected expenditure and 45% of projected revenue in 2025. Similarly, the debt servicing to revenue ratio is likely to be much worse given concerns about the capacity of the government to generate the projected revenues. 6. Personnel and pension costs rose by 59% or 3.6 trillion naira to 9.6 trillion naira, including 1 trillion naira for GOEs over the 2024 approved budget due to the implementation of the new minimum wage. 7. Capital expenditure totaling 14.8 trillion trillion naira, makes up 30% of the overall 2025 budget. As of August 2024, only 3.6 trillion naira has been disbursed, indicating that capital expenditure is receiving the least allocation. Therefore, the projection for 2025 capex may be challenging to implement fully. Critical infrastructure is vital for supporting a significant portion of the economy and fostering economic growth. To ensure effectiveness, the funds should be primarily structured as counterparty financing for projects driven by the private sector. 8. Education sector has 3.5 trillion naira or 7% of the FGN budget allocation, while the health sector has 2.5 trillion naira or 5% of the FGN budget for 2025. Both numbers include recurrent and capital expenditure. 9. The allocation to the defense and security sector was 4.9 trillion naira or 10% in the 2025 proposed budget. The budget is anticipated to fall short of generating substantial economic growth. This expectation is primarily due to the persistent revenue challenges, which are compounded by rising costs associated with debt servicing and inefficient spending priorities. To stimulate private sector investment and engagement, there is an urgent need for a more strategic and well-defined policy direction that can effectively address these concerns. Please note that this is the federal government's budget and not the budget for the states. Thank you for listening. Please join us same time next week for another interesting and insightful session. For questions, comments, and feedback, kindly forward to ebo.ayodeji@gmail.com or send SMS to 070-82463747. Stay blessed and Merry Christmas.